This video and its three companions compose a four-part series on basic bibliographical observation. The series aims to show you the fundamental techniques used in pursuing any form of bibliography or other study that takes books seriously as evidence of human activity. I will demonstrate these principles using material familiar to me, Anglophone natural history and poetry, but I believe you can adapt these techniques to the objects that interest you. I hope you do, and I hope you'll share the results with the rest of us. This video comes first and deals with evidence that is easy to notice in just one book and which can be studied successfully through careful note-taking. The second video deals with evidence that is harder to see and introduces a few basic tools. The third video deals with evidence that is hard to notice without looking at several books and introduces sustained attention through record-keeping, collecting, and reading other people's work. This area excites even those just learning bibliographical observation, which is good because many hands make for light work. However, it depends on the previous two to do well. The fourth video deals with evidence that is easy to see in every book, but which turns out to be the hardest to notice as evidence. This evidence introduces more advanced approaches rather than a wholly basic technique. Now, let's talk about evidence that is easy to notice in just one book. Many readers learn to disregard certain features of books while they read. They think that these features do not represent the work or information that they seek, but support auxiliary uses of the book, like citation, or merely form part of the book's history. Indeed, it could be distracting to read every page number in the page 3 middle of each sentence that spans pages. See what I mean? Yet, practiced readers still see and notice page numbers. Similarly, most practiced readers do not read indices sequentially as part of the verbal text of a work. Practiced readers may not even know who wrote the index, but they know that for modern books, they're a separate sort of work to help with specific tasks. Some people call these separate features bibliographical codes or paratexts because they can see them but do not consider them part of the main work. They don't ignore them, but want to treat them differently than the rest. Depending on what you study, you will need to look at different, commonly disregarded features. For example, if you study the traditional printed book of China, you might be interested in the dimensions of the page and certain specific features such as the shoku, kinagbi, or the zongfeng. Or you might look for visible repairs to the woodblocks used to print the book. If you study PlayStation games as books or book-like, you may see loading screens, glitches, and controllers as the features which a practiced player, that is a reader, ought to disregard. If you study early computer typeset books, you might need to seek out widows, orphans, and unsightly gaps, along with hyphenation irregularities. If you study 20th century paperbacks, you may look at battered type or plate marks, along with the marketing material on the covers and at the end of books. The features that I mean here are the ones that a conventional reader of that type of text would regard as common to that form of book. For example, these days, most readers recognize that page numbers occur on every page, in a sequence, typically without repetition. A repetition thus signals either a mistake or some sort of special section of the book. Introductions might be numbered in Roman numerals. Newspapers may prefix a letter to the page number. Journals might continue the previous volume's numbering. Parallel texts in two languages may use each number twice or not. A practiced reader could use these features to write references, identify a gap where something is missing, and many other things. However, when we turn to a page to discuss a passage, a practiced reader disregards the page number after using it to locate the passage. Page numbers always relate to the passage of verbal text, yet we turn to a page to discuss a passage. Seldom do we turn to a passage to discuss a page. Since any of us can see these numbers, however, these features can be studied by practiced readers of any sort. They don't need any special equipment, and the principal technique consists only of being patient with something that is normally disregarded. The best technique that I know is simple: systematic observation and note-taking. That is, find all of the features and write down what they look like and where they occur. Let me demonstrate with something that's familiar to me: 18th century English poetry. But a warning, you probably do read something else, so you'll probably have to look for something else. If people actively read what you study, you can probably ask them. And if you read what you study, some reflection will probably tell you what to look at. For materials where no experienced readers can be found, studies of reading and production, whether in print, verbally reported, written, or something else, can identify the features. An unknown rogue bookseller printed this copy of Samuel Butler's Hudibras on a European common press for Anglophone readers to be bound in the style of a codex. So, it has instructions for readers and for binders, among many other features. The signature marks tell the person assembling the book where those pages go. That is, B goes before C, C before D, and so on. Practiced readers also knew this, but seldom had to use these signature marks because the book also has page numbers. Yet, not every page has a page number or a signature mark. Now, we can use the fundamental skill of patience to look at them all and write them down. For these notes, let's make a line stand in for a leaf of the book and write down any signatures or page numbers on either side. So, what can we see? Every 8 leaves or 16 pages, the signing starts with a new letter. The recto, or right side, is always the page with the signature. Mostly, the first 4 signatures are numbered. Some numbers fall out of order or are missing. The first few pages don't have numbers, but that seems to be on purpose. Likewise, page 76 is skipped because the page is blank. Yet, where we expect pages 106, 107, and 110, we have instead 108, 109, and 112, which seems like an error of some sort. The signing points to one of the most core facts about the Codex book. They're made in large sheets, folded and sewn. The importance of this fact earns it a special name, format, the number of planned page units to a sheet. We call this book's format octavo, 8 pages to a side of a large sheet, folded, sewn, and cut. The page numbers can be out of order or missing because the signatures tell the binder what to do. Folding a large sheet of paper into several pages so effectively structures the codex that we have a standard notation for this. We write 8 with a superscript letter O for octavo, which means that 8 sheets were printed to a side. We write a superscript 8 to say that there are 8 leaves. And we can turn the individual page numbers into ranges with mistakes, like this. This formula further compresses, like this. And you have what we call a collational paragraph that includes a collational formula and a pagination statement. Similar formulas can be written for other books, and it takes a little practice to learn how to do it. But collations and page numbers aren't the only thing you can learn about this way. Codices include press figures, catchwords, headlines, ornaments, and truly innumerable other things to look at. You can find these easily enough by looking at books and noticing, reading about how the book was made, or learning how the book was read. Looking at books with people also interested in learning, or who already know, can help you to learn more quickly. But even if you're alone, you can read and think. I think this technique should work for you, no matter what kind of books that interest you, and whoever you might be. The key is merely to notice the features, write them down in a systematic way, look for patterns, and try to decide what they mean.